Cool guys, now we'll continue with Wi-Fi network hacking, different techniques, tools, and tactics to do that. But first, we need to understand how the Wi-Fi network works, how to access it, what kind of authentication it uses usually, and we'll go from there. Again, just to recap, let's say that wireless networks um, is a network that uses radio waves to link devices and computers, for example, together. The implementation of such network is done at layer 1, which will be the physical layer of the OSI model. Everything circles around the wireless access point, which serves as a router and one-stop shop for any packets sent throughout the network. Usually, to access a wireless network, you need an enabled wireless network device, such as laptop, smartphone, tablet, etc. You also need to be within the transmission radius of the wireless access point. Most devices will provide you with a list of available networks. You're gonna see the SSID, which means that this is the ID of the specific network. Unfortunately, those IDs could be easily spoofed since you can. It's pretty simple to change the SSID of a network, Wi-Fi network, once you have access to the router or the access point itself. If you provide the name of a well-known or trusted network and you put it as your access point name, it's really obvious that a lot of people will try to connect to it. Let's say AT&T Wi-Fi, this is widely used, or maybe the Starbucks type of SSID. So a lot of hackers, malicious hackers, are using this technique to lure people and have them connect to their network instead of the actual legitimate one. It's pretty simple. Also, they use a tactic called the authentication of current network, and they trick your device to connect to the new access point having the same SSID. Your device will have a predefined list of saved SSIDs, meaning once you access a specific network and you type in valid password, that usually goes automatically into your device default list of Wi-Fi networks, and once such SSID is available, the device would most likely try to connect to it automatically. If you turn off such option, it won't though. So there is also always an option to turn off the automatically connect option, which not many people does since its default is convenient and it's really simple to use once you are within the range of specific SSID that's already saved in your device. The device will try and most likely connect to it successfully if it doesn't have a password or if it's using the same password that you have stored on your device. It's gonna be there, and from there on you're gonna be transmitting all your communication through this access point, meaning that it could be intercepted, it could be modified, it could be used for malicious purposes. So definitely pay attention to that, since it might pose a great risk to you. Moving forward, the network wireless network authentication. Since the wireless network is really easy accessible to everyone who has a valid wireless network enabled device. Most uh, networks, Wi-Fi networks, are protected by password. Let's look at some of the most widely used authentication techniques. The first one will be the WEP, WEP. This stands as an acronym for Wired Equivalent Privacy, and it was developed for IEEE 802.11 WLAN standards. Its goal was to basically provide the good level of privacy that all the wired networks has. Web works by encrypting the data that is transmitted over the network in order to keep it safe from any attempts for eavesdropping. These days, the web authentication mechanism is considered weak and it shouldn't be used. Later on in the course, we're going to be talking more about different authentication mechanisms and how to choose the best one at the moment, and what are the possible pros and cons. Here, I would say that the main weakness here is for web authentication will be the integrity of the packets, uh, which is checked using cyclic redundancy check. The acronym for that one is CRC32. That check could be compromised by capturing at least two packets. So this is definitely an easy way to break into a specific Wi-Fi network just by capturing some packets. And there are a lot of tutorials that can help you try that. Maybe set up your own lab, maybe use and configure some dummy access points, configure it to use web authentication, and then try it yourself using Kali Linux, for example, air dump, and stuff like that. But this is talk for another time. Moving forward, I can also say that the same authentication is using the RC4 encryption algorithm in order to create stream ciphers. Uh, and that one poses a significant threat since the initial value is 24 bits long, while the secret key can either be 40 bits or 104 bits long. So the total length for both uh, the initial value and the secret key can either be 64 or 128 bits long. That means that the lower possible value of the secret key makes it really easy for an attacker to crack it. Another weakness here will be the weak initial values combination, which do not actually encrypt sufficiently, and this definitely makes them really vulnerable to any type of attack. Another one will be that web authentication is mainly based on passwords. This makes it vulnerable to dictionary, so-called dictionary attacks, which means that if the password is not strong enough and it's part of any uh, complex password list, password dictionary, it could be easily cracked by an attacker. The key management in web is also poorly implemented, which is another major issue. And also, the initial values in such authentication can be actually reused. So you see that long list of stuff that could go wrong with the web authentication. That's why these days, and actually smarter people than me have deprecated web and moved forward to WPA standard. This was back in the days, not now, but WPA is the acronym for Wi-Fi Protected Access. And this is a security protocol developed by the Alliance, Wi-Fi Alliance, in response to the majority of the problems found in web authentication. It is used to encrypt data in transfer and all kinds of transfer data on 802.11 WLANs. It also uses higher initial values compared to the web. In this case, those are 48 bits instead of 22, and it uses temporal keys to encrypt packets. It does not reuse. Uh, Now, let's look at some weaknesses found in WPA, since um, the standard and the security practices moved to the second version of WPA. So let's look real quick what was the problem with the first version of it. The collision avoidance implementation here can be easily broken, and it is vulnerable to denial of service attacks, which, as you see, may pose great risk to any business, even home environment, home Wi-Fi. It's really annoying when you cannot access the internet and your network is unavailable. That might bring another attack vector. Once you're unable to connect to your Wi-Fi network, you start automatically using another one, which might be malicious, and so on and so forth. Or you can call the internet service provider, or you get a call from the internet service provider, someone pretending to be the internet service provider, and move from there. Attackers can be really creative and do some phishing emails, calls, trying to trick you and get easily access to your sensitive data. So the another option that's really vulnerable in the WPA is also the pre-shared keys used passphrases uh, that use passphrases. A weak passphrase um, is still vulnerable to dictionary attack. Not as vulnerable as a simple password, but still there are a lot of complex dictionaries that you can download online or you can create yourself using some cool tools. Once you know important information on your target, you can actually make different combinations using birth dates, names, different locations, memories, best friends, and so on and so forth. And you can create, using automatic tools, you can create really comprehensive and efficient dictionary lists. Now let's move forward and talk briefly on how to crack, starting with web cracking, which in this case will be the easiest option and the low hanging fruit, so called low hanging fruit for the attacker. They're maybe driving around, so called war driving, they're scanning different networks and they're looking for that web authentication. Once they find such authentication, it's really, really easy for them to escalate stuff and definitely break into the network. Let's look at some of the main options that they can use in such cases. Cracking by itself is a process of exploiting security weaknesses in a specific network and in order to gain unauthorized access to sensitive data. Web cracking refers to implementation of exploits on networks that are actually in use of such web authentication. There are basically two types of cracking, named passive cracking and active cracking. The passive cracking does not have any effect on the network traffic until the web security has been cracked. It is difficult, really, really difficult for a security guy or maybe security control to detect such attack. The active attack, on the other side, is a type of attack that has an increased load effect on the actual network traffic. It is easy to detect compared to passive cracking. But at the same time, it's really, really effective, more effective than the other one. As you know, there is also pros and cons. This one is maybe more effective, quicker, but at the same time, you're a lot louder. Depending on the target that you choose and the security controls that might be in place in order to monitor for suspicious activity, you can choose either passive or active cracking. Some of the main tools and really cool tools that you can use are AirCrack, WebCrack, Kismet, uh, Depth Decrypt, and some other cool tools which are going to be discussed later on in this course. It's really good to know that there are 100 ways to skin a cat, as they say, but many tools can um, use for one purpose. They can do the job perfectly. It's just that uh, one of them has advantages over the others at some point of the development, or maybe it has an extra option, extra flag that could be added in there in order to help you out. So you have to play with those tools, try them, see which one fits you best, and then decide which one to use. But it doesn't matter, it's important to use the one that will get you the fastest, in the fastest way possible, the result that you're looking for. At the same time, keep you safe and also be really convenient to use, because some of the tools, they're really hard to configure, hard to maintain, hard to use. It takes a little more learning, but that shouldn't stop you if you have the time to play with them. Some of those tools are really, really complex, and they can, if well known, the options could be used to really help you out a lot and help you in the process of cracking Wi-Fi networks. Let's move forward and say a few words about the WPA cracking. That authentication, that protocol uses the 256 pre-shared key or passphrase for authentication. The short passphrases are usually vulnerable to so-called dictionary attacks, as we already talked about, um, and other attacks that can be used in order to crack the access Wi-Fi access password. The following tools can be actually used for WPA keys. One of the tools is called Copatty, and the other one, Kane Enable. You know that one probably from before that, and it's widely used. Password cracking is something that it's actually a big thing if you know how to craft your dictionary accordingly, because sometimes when you don't have the right dictionary you might wait for hours, days, months, and there shouldn't be any result, any positive result. It's not that easy, but once successful, the joy that you have is it's amazing, and it really takes some time. It's not that easy. You can start with some labs, some predefined vulnerable applications, stuff like that. Try to break in with brute forcing, but keep in mind that in real situation, it shouldn't be that easy. Sometimes it is, but most of the times you have to be creative. You have to do your due diligence, reconnaissance, open source intelligence gathering in order to craft and create the right dictionary for the purpose. It's really important to learn how to use those tools that help you actually create such dictionaries. If we talk about general attack types for wireless networks, we can say that there are three main sections here. The first one will be sniffing, and this involves intercepting packets as they're transferred over a specific network. Um, the captured data then can be further decoded using tools like we said before, Kane Enable, for example. And another option will be man in the middle, the MITM attack. This really involves eavesdropping, intercepting on a network and capturing sensitive user information. And this could be done by having that rogue access point, have the person connect to it, and then you become man in the middle between the person and the destination that he's trying to access. Another one will be the denial of service attack, and the main intent here is to deny legitimate users access to network resources. Phaedra Jack tool can be used in this case to perform such attack, and not many people in legitimate pen tests are allowing such techniques to be used, but most of the time you can do that in lab environment, or you can read about it in some article talking about Black Hat that actually attacked, used denial of service as part of his complex attack. Now we're going to be moving to cracking wireless network WEP web and WPA keys. And we're going to say a few words about that. It is possible to crack such keys used usually to gain access to a specific wireless network. Doing so really requires software and hardware resources, and in my opinion, a lot of patience. The success of such attack vector could also depend on how um, users are behaving, meaning are they active or inactive uh, in the target network. I can provide you with some basic information that can help you out and get you started with this. Kali Linux, or the old name Backtrack, uh, is, as you know, Linux-based security operating system, and it is developed on top of Ubuntu. Uh, it comes with a number of security tools and can be used to gather information, assess vulnerabilities, and perform exploits, among other cool stuff that you can use with it. It's really important to go over the different tools that Hali has, and I'm pretty sure um, going through detailed description of each of those tools and try it yourself will significantly improve your experience and your skill set, and help you use that tool quickly and efficiently in real engagement, or maybe uh, let's say the CTF challenge, something in those lines of thinking. So this distribution, security based pen testing distribution, is usually comes with good number of tools, and those tools are used can be used to gather information, assess vulnerabilities, um, execute different exploits, and most of the tools, as I said, are some of the most popular ones. Though are Metasploit, Wireshark, Aircrack NG, Nmap, Offcrack, and many others. The newest distribution of Kali, newest version, uh, really has all up to date tools, and you can always install some additional tools available on GitHub and other places. People are writing cool stuff, and most of those tools, if they're properly developed and maintained, they become part of that Kali Linux distribution, in order to help out security consultants, engineers, pen testers to work in a really complex and thoughtful environment where everything is in one hand distance, and you can call different tools, different services whenever you need something quicker and reliable. Cracking wireless network keys, as we mentioned, requires a lot of patience, and this is just an example for you, but at minimum, you need the following tools. You need a wireless network adapter with the ability to inject packets. This is, in most cases, as we say, this is hardware requirement. And then you need the Kali operating system, where you can find it online and download it for free from the official website. Um, you need to be within the target network's radius, of course, and if the users of that network are actually actively using the connection, then only then your chances of cracking will improve significantly, since you can easily capture the needed packets. You will need sufficient knowledge of Linux operating systems and working knowledge of Aircrack. It is, and all different scripts that it uses. Uh, And of course, as we always say, patience is needed. This is just an idea for you how to structure and maybe execute a lab for yourself. Try to get more out of this course and basically learn how to do it yourself. It's really important to do the technical portion of the exercise by yourself. Try to replicate the stuff shown on the videos, since looking and just reading about something, it's not the same as actually doing it. There is a lot of obstacles that you need to overcome. There is a lot of um, head banging to the wall, a lot of late night trying to basically get a specific thing to work, troubleshooting. It's really a lot of complex and hard work involved in that process, but at the end, uh, you feel complete and you feel that you've done something important, and you've done it by yourself. You didn't give up, which is really, really important in such cases. Securing, just saying few words now how to secure wireless networks is related to the following best practices. One of them will be changing default passwords, um, which comes usually with the hardware. This is one of the first things to do. Enabling the authentication mechanism, and definitely using the WPA second version in this case. Access to the network can be restricted by allowing only register MAC addresses. That means that if the device is not registered by MAC address, it won't be able to join the network, which can also be bypassed practically, but it adds another layer of security to your network. And use strong WPA 2 version 2 keys in this case, in combination of symbols, numbers and characters, lower uppercase characters, significantly reduce the chance of those keys being cracked, using the ordinary dictionary and brute force attacks. And also use firewall software um, that can reduce a lot of the unauthorized access attempts. So this will be conclusion to um, this tutorial, and we're moving forward with some further information about wireless network